I am Apostle Nona Ray.
And I'm Apostle Glenda Ray.
And we are God's Girls, keeping it real.
Tuning into the broadcast again. We are so excited about being able to bring to you the things that we are sharing. I am Apostle Glenda Ray.
And I am Apostle Nona Ray. And we are God's Girls, keeping it real. That's why we're here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're just hoping that you are well and that we just believe and pray that the information and the revelation that we bring to you on our broadcast is something that's helpful for your lives, something that's informative, that can bring you into a place of peace and wholeness and wellness. We cover a gamut of topics, and today's broadcast is no different. As we bring to you, we're going to continue on with the topic of abuse. We've been in this track for a little while.
We have all month, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
We just really feel like this is something that we need to push out and kind of just keep in your hearing, keep in the forefront of your thoughts.
Yes.
Because it's such a prevalent thing that's going on today. So much abuse. And it's not just the sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. It's not just domestic abuse, but Apostle, we found out that there's so many different arms to abuse.
Yes.
And so we want to start off today talking to you about your children.
Yeah. Abuse is, like you said, Apostle, it is so prevalent, mm-hmm. but it is such a hidden thing. It's and that's how it's able to be controlled, because it's hidden and it's undercover, and individuals are fearful in talking about it, which is one of the aspects of the abuser. Keeping it hidden and making the one being abused feel like they are the ones in the wrong. And
exactly.
as a result, they don't share it with anybody.
They
don't tell anybody, but they live this life that's so covert.
Yes.
And so a lack of courage, and just it creates such, from the verbal abuse, the mental abuse, psychological abuse, and all of it is mental.
It is. It really is. And abuse is happening every day. And particularly today, we're going to be talking about our children, our youth, and our teens.
Yes.
And helping you as parents and as those that are in authority over children, with your parents, grandparents, what have you, to be able to open your eyes and kind of see signs of abuse. Now, we all understand, even from our last broadcast, we talked about how 80 to 90% of children that are abused by someone that they know. And so we're living in a day where people are very perverted. Mm-hmm. Let's just face it. Mm-hmm. Perversion is in our land. Satan is Satan, and he does what he does. He comes to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Mm-hmm. And he has no respect of persons. Just because it's a child, it does not disqualify them from this abuse. And so we want to be able to point out to you some of the things that you may be seeing and not able to make the connection to help you to see that your child could very well be suffering abuse at the hands of someone, whether that's a family member, a neighbor, a teacher. Listen, you guys, it used to be a time when you could send your kids to school and they were safe.
Right.
And that is no longer.
That is over.
It really is over. Even the subject matters that they are teaching are somewhat abusive.
Yeah.
And so we want to just begin to highlight some of those things for you guys today. And hopefully somebody out there, we can save you. We can do what we need to do to get those things pointed out.
Yeah, I was I saw something the other day, Apostle, that it was a homework assignment that was sent home by I believe it was a 6th grade student.
Yeah.
And in that homework assignment, it was supposed to have been a math assignment, But what it was the story. It was like a math problem, where
Yes,
you read
I
and you
saw
have to
it.
figure out.
Mhm.
And in this problem, it was saying that, and I don't recall whose name it was that was used, but let's face, for the sake of Johnny, describe to us what your dad's erection and ejaculation looks like
Yeah, in a math problem.
in a math
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, it's true. And I saw that, so I know that it is true. And absolutely. But Apostle, we spend a lot of time talking about the abuses in the public school.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll cover that again here in these weeks to come. But there's a lot of things that's going on.
Mhm.
And your children, because they are taught to trust teachers, those that are in authority over them,
Right.
whether that's family members, whether again that's teachers, even people in the church. Hear me, people of God. That stuff is happening in the church as well.
Absolutely.
God forbid, but it is true. It's happening. These are the days that we're living in.
And it's not just the Catholic Church.
Thank you. Hallelujah. It's the
It's being
spirit-filled,
exposed
tongue-talking
there.
churches.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
So we're not here to accuse anyone of anything. We are here to simply help you as parents and those that have authority over children, even those that are mandated reporters,
Mhm.
which clergy are mandated
Yeah.
reporters.
Yeah.
So whether they're your Sunday school teachers, children's church teachers, what have you, there are signs that children display when there's some level of abuse that's going on.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to focus in on today.
Yes.
And so, Apostle, I'll get started with this if that's okay.
That's fine.
We're going to just start out, first of all, talking about our youth and our children,
Mhm.
and then we'll move into teens, some of the display that you'll see in teens.
Yeah.
The first one that we want to talk about is sudden personality changes and temper tantrums.
Yes.
Children that have been mild-mannered, not necessarily aggressive.
Mhm.
Sometimes we call our kids spoiled, whatever, but you begin to see this sudden change.
Yes.
It's just their change of personality.
Mhm.
They're having a lot of falling out, temper tantrums, a lot of pullback, don't want to go, don't want to do things.
Mhm.
Listen, pay attention to those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having these falling out and these crying spells and temper tantrums and for no apparent reason.
Yes.
But now all of a sudden there's this violent, it can even become violent behavior in these temper tantrums, which is not typically the personality of the child.
Yeah.
That is a sign and a symptom that something, it could very well be a sign and a symptom that something is not right, that there is something that is going on. The other thing too, Apostle, is being able to watch when you're dropping them off at the daycare.
Yes.
Or you're dropping them off
At
at
school.
yes.
Mhm.
And they go into these rants where they just don't want to go and you can't understand why. That is something that really needs to be looked at to
Sure.
see, is there something different that's going on here? And many times children don't know how to express or how to explain what they might really be feeling. They don't know if they have been violated sexually. They don't
Yeah.
know how to express that and how to tell you that this is what's taking place. So
Sure.
as the parent and as the authority figure,
Mhm.
we have to be the one that have eyes and ears open to be able to see and understand and know something is off right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, don't just assume they're going through something or having
Yeah.
a bad way or having a bad day. Look, watch your children.
Yeah.
Look for those very sudden personality
Mhm.
changes.
Yeah.
The next one that we want to point out to you is poor concentration.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
being able to concentrate
Mhm.
in school. Calls from the teacher saying,
Mhm.
they're just not paying attention. They're
Mhm.
daydreaming. They're falling asleep in class.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. Be aware of that, parents. Something
Yeah.
could be going on.
Yeah.
Another one is being very suddenly clingy, and I think that's
Yeah.
what you were just talking about.
Right.
Don't want to separate from the parent. Don't,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go to the daycare. I don't want to go to the preschool. I don't want to go here or go there. Being very, very clingy.
Yeah.
Parents, check that out. Don't just assume that your children are just having a bad day,
Right.
especially if it's an ongoing behavior that
Mhm.
you're seeing.
Yeah. And it may not necessarily be from not wanting to go to the daycare. It could actually very well be what's happening at home.
Sure.
If the children are not in the public environment, but even being able to watch these signs and symptoms, if they're even at home, if all of a sudden now they become very, very clingy, because we've discovered that much abuse and a lot of the abuse statistics show that it takes place right in the home.
Absolutely.
And it happens amongst those who we know, uncles, aunts,
cousins, whatever, brothers and sisters. Absolutely. It's true. And again, we're not saying that these are proof positive that things are going on. We're talking about sudden behaviors, sudden switch over and changes in behaviors. Again, parents, teachers, whatever it may be, don't ignore that.
Right.
Another one that we want to point out here is this acting out, aggressive behavior, just these aggressive behaviors. You know, you have a child that's very well mannered, behavior, no behavior issues, and then all of a sudden they're in a lot of trouble. That is really a calling card for help. Typically when children they're looking for some measure of attention. They need somebody to pay attention to them. And so if you start, your child all of a sudden starts displaying these kinds of things, again, talk with them, find out, do some probing, ask them some questions, find out if something unusual is going on. Yeah,
because typically what will happen in these types of situations, we will, for the most part, begin a discipline regimen. You know, because they're acting out, their behavior is aggressive. And so we'll spare not the rod, we'll bring a disciplinary action, as opposed to, like you said, communicating with the child to find out what is actually taking place here, what's causing this aggressive behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another one that I found very, very interesting is the child all of a sudden wanting to wear layers of clothing. Wanting to cover up, this need to wear coats on the inside and hoodies, and they want to cover up. Listen to me, parents, they're trying to not be exposed. They're trying to protect themselves. And so when you see these kinds of behaviors happening, again, before you fuss and want to beat them up, pay attention. Something could be going on. Something in their psyche is kicking that off. Something in their soul is wanting that cover up, and you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. As you're listening to us today, we'd love to hear your feedback. Put in the chat things that you can identify with what we're saying, or just let us know that this is reaching you, that it's really speaking to things to where you are. If it's informative to you, just let us know, put it in the chat. And if you have questions, put it in there and we'll do our best to answer it as we continue on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. A few more here that we have. Well, we could go on with this forever. There's a lot of things, but we want to just bring information to you that would help you. One of the other ones that we've seen is this bizarre behavior, such as salivating, writing with using their saliva to write. I know that, we think the kids do bizarre things, but a lot of times it is their way of communicating. Playing in feces. All of a sudden, your kids, they put feces on stuff. You understand, again, these are ways of them getting attention. They're trying to signal you in a way, because more than likely with the abuse, they have been told not to tell, and probably threatened to not tell. And so unable, afraid to tell, but at the same time wanting to bring some level of attention. Pay attention to that, parents and those who oversee children, please pay attention to it.
Absolutely, because more than likely it's could be communicated, this is our secret. So this is, and let's go to our secret place where no one knows this is our secret.
Yes, absolutely. And as demented as it is, it happens a lot, a whole lot. Another one that we'd like to talk about is sudden sleep disturbances. The monsters at night, the nightmares, the bedwetting, fear of monsters under the bed, in the closet, insomnia, can't go to sleep. again, something is disturbing the peace and the soul of that child. So pay attention. Don't assume that they're just doing too many video games or they're up too late or something is, maybe stimulating them. Please ask questions. Ask them where did this sudden fear come from?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your children and find out what's going on.
Yeah. It breaks my heart, Apostle, because these kids, who can protect them? They cannot protect themselves. And when they come under the subjection of adults and older people who are creating or doing these kinds of things to them, it's like, who's going to come to their rescue? Who's going to advocate for them? Who's going to protect them? And we'll find that as these kids get older, the behaviors that they start to exemplify as a result of what they dealt with I was having a conversation just the other day, and we were talking about bipolar and individuals who demonstrate bipolar activities, schizophrenia activities. Most of the time you can trace that back to some type of abuse, some type of physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. Somewhere there was abuse that took place in those bipolar actions. And so it is imperative that we get this information out so that parents can see and understand. We have to be the ones to protect them.
We do. And we are the only ones that can protect them. I've gotten to the point now, Apostle, when I'm in public and I see children, youngsters, even teenagers, I tend to watch them. Especially since we've been doing this series on abuse, I watch them. I watch their behaviors, whether we're in the grocery store, whether we're in the airport. I'm watching for very suspicious type of behaviors. Children that won't make eye contact, very quiet, seemingly withdrawn, no real communication with the adult that they're with, things like that. Because you guys have to understand, not only are we talking about a day of abuse, but we're also talking about a day of trafficking, where children are being taken, they're sold into slavery and all kinds of things. If we don't open our eyes to begin to see, then who will help them? What happens when they can't get to a phone or call that local hotline? When they see the number in the bathroom and they have no way to make a phone call, and they've been threatened and they have been tormented with bodily harm or some type of harm to their family. These are the kinds of things that children as well as adults that are being abused have to deal with.
This is the reason why DCFS has come into play. When we were growing up, there was no DCFS.
No, there was not.
It probably needed to be at some point.
I think our parents would all be behind bars.
Right. But the need for intervention, because even sometimes it's the abuse that's coming from the parents.
Sure.
And someone has to intervene to advocate, but then that's even more abuse because you're taking the child out of its environment and you're placing them in an environment that they're not familiar with. And then the abuse can continue on even in that environment. And it's like our children, we really have to come to the point of rescuing our young kids.
Yeah, it's saving a generation.
Yeah.
It really is. There is such an assault against them.
Yeah.
And so we have to become advocates, whether we like it or not. We have to become advocates for these young ones, these little ones that obviously have fallen into the bullseye of Satan. There's a lot going on against them. We're going to talk about a few more of these before we move into the teens. Again, dealing with children as well as youth, young children, children, as well as your preteens in that age group. Loss of appetite, sudden loss of appetite, eating problems, swallowing problems. Listen, nausea and pain in the stomach. My stomach hurts. My stomach hurts. My stomach hurts. A lot of times, something is going on. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be abuse, but it certainly can be driven by some level of fear. Parents, pay attention to that. Little Johnny's got a stomach ache. How much candy did you eat? It's just this. It's just that. You need to do this. It's just this thing or that thing. Pay attention, particularly if this becomes habitual,
Right.
where they're complaining about it all the time.
Mhm.
Fear of certain people and or places,
Yeah.
like stranger anxiety,
Mhm.
social withdrawal, things of that nature. Again, pay attention. I'm going to get through these kind of quickly, Apostle,
Okay.
so you can go ahead and do the teens.
Okay.
Unexplained anger or irritability, or unprovoked crying, just outburst of tears,
Yeah.
suddenly for no reason. What's wrong with you?
Mm.
Find out, dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
Secretive behavior, things like, I have a secret, but I can't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Those kinds of dialogues. Why can't you tell me what it is? Because I can't tell you.
Mm.
Press that, parents. Press that out of them.
Yeah.
Regression, behaving younger than they are, particularly for our older youths,
Yeah.
the preteens, when they begin to digress and act as if instead of them being 12, they're acting like they're 5.
Right.
Check that out.
Mhm.
A sexualized behavior. All of a sudden, this sexualized behavior, excessive things happening. You find your children, listen to me, parents, this is an adult conversation, but we're going to say it. All of a sudden, your children are masturbating.
Yeah.
You're catching them.
Mhm.
You need to dig into this and find out what is really happening.
Right. Right. Even with that, Apostle, just even watching their underpants.
Sure.
Seeing because when this kind of thing is going on, you'll find that the child will begin to have a discharge.
Yeah, they
And
will.
children should not be discharging. And so being able to pay attention to that when they're in the bathtub or when they're undressing, being able to see, because once this is starting to happen, once they have been sexually excited, in whatever form, whether that is through the molestation, whether that is through masturbation, then those hormonal juices begin to kick in, and you'll find that they will begin to have this discharge in their underpants.
Yeah.
And so that is something that very well need to be watched.
Absolutely. And I think as parents, we just assume that that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
We assume that that's a normal thing. Listen, this may not be happening as a result of some person-to-person abuse,
Mm-hmm.
but it certainly could be abusive in that they are being exposed to things,
Right.
information, videos, movies, things of that nature that they should not be.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, hear me. That's not normal.
It's not.
That's not normal. And I understand culture today, it tends to be everywhere, but culture does not cancel out our responsibility as parents.
Right.
Just because culture changes doesn't mean that we're not supposed to protect our kids.
Absolutely.
And monitor what they're watching and what they're seeing and things of that nature. You are opening doors that you really don't want to open.
Right. Right.
So parents, please hear what we're saying. Watch your children. All of a sudden they're talking using new adult terms.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting that from somewhere.
Yeah.
You understand that thing didn't just hit their brain.
Right.
That hit their ears.
Absolutely.
And it hit their eye gate.
Mm-hmm.
They saw something. They heard something. A few more here that we're going to go through. Anxiety-related illnesses. Drug and alcohol abuse. Reenactment of abuse using dolls or with their friends, things of that nature, drawings that they made, especially in younger children that like to color and that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you're looking at their coloring, you're looking at their pictures, and there's a lot of violence that starts to show up.
Yeah.
Dark colors where their faces are dark, their explanations are dark. If they're drawing faces, they have unhappy faces. Listen, parents, I'm trying to keep your kids off the couch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the psychiatrist, I'm trying to help you to see that there's some things that may be going on.
Apostle, that's one of the tests that DCFS uses to determine whether or not there is abuse taking place, especially sexual abuse, because what they'll do is they'll put the kids in a room with a doll.
Sure.
And then whatever interaction that the child has with this doll will more than likely display and show up what has been taking place in their own lives.
Yes.
And so that's one of the tests that they use.
Absolutely. And why not be smart enough to test your own children
Thank you.
rather than waiting for some army of people to move into your home, test your kid, and then snatch them out of your home?
Right.
Listen, you are supposed to be the guardian here. So you watch your own children. I just want to go over this one, and then we're going to turn it over to you for the
Okay.
teens. Imaginary and secret friends. These secret friends that show up. Secret friends that show up, or friends that they talk about that you never see, you never meet, you know nothing about them, you haven't never met them, you don't know anything about these supposedly children. Sometimes these friends are not friends, they're adults that are hiding. And your child has been told not to divulge their identity. So you have to watch that. And then the last thing is just physical things like rashes, sudden rashes showing up. As Apostle Peter said, discharges, unusual odors coming from your children that is not normal. Fear of being examined. Because sexual abuse can come with some fear of being examined.
Yeah.
All right, Apostle.
One of those other things too was the bedwetting.
Yes, yes.
All of a sudden now they're wetting the
They're
bed,
wetting the
thumb
bed.
sucking,
Yeah.
finger sucking. They're just moving to those behaviors that were not necessarily there.
Yeah.
It is very critical that we watch. As we look at these disturbances that we've seen in children, we can also see some of these same disturbances in our teens. And one of the major things that we can see is eating disorders, such as anorexia, bulimia, compulsive overeating, where they begin to eat and then they're regurgitating, make themselves regurgitate because their persona of themselves is like, I don't look good, I don't feel good to myself. And so they want to, display to where they stay at a certain weight. A denial of anything wrong. When you ask them, you talk to them, what's going on with you. Sometimes it's very difficult to get teens to open up to you.
It is.
And
under regular circumstances.
Absolutely. And so being able to have a connection with them to where there's this dialogue that's going forth even before any of this stuff is showing up as being something wrong, but having a relationship with our teens and that, many times teens think that the parents are the enemy.
Sure.
And they think we don't know anything. And they are like,
yeah, they do.
And they know it all, but we don't know anything. And so it's very key and critical that we keep a relationship, an open relationship with them. The sexual acting out, early or frequent sexual activity or sexualized behavior, difficult relating to the opposite sex in a non-sexual way. That is a major sign. If there is now the sexual acting out, the sneaking out of the window, the going off to places where they're not supposed to be, not wanting to communicate to you where they are, where they've been, where they're going, these secret things that begin to take place, that's a sign that something is going on and something is going wrong. Low self-esteem and depression. That is a major, major key, because what I have discovered in teens, more than likely teen abuse and sexual abuse or whatever type of abuse that it is, it doesn't just start when they become teens.
Yeah.
It's been a track to where even when they were children, where it went unnoticed and undetected, and now you're seeing all of these behaviors operating within the life of the teen. But it didn't just start there.
Exactly.
It started some time ago, and now it's showing up in different measures.
And you know what, Apostle, dealing with that, and again, we are highlighting a lot of this is talking about sexual abuse, but again, bullying is a form of abuse.
Absolutely.
And so when your child is being abused by that bully or that person or group of kids or whatever it is in the school or the neighborhood, and they're all of a sudden their self-esteem just begins to go down the drain.
Yeah.
They are suffering from those levels of depression. They don't want to be around anybody.
Yeah.
People laughing at them and things of that nature. Hear me, parents, it's more than bullying. That's abuse.
Yeah.
That's your child being abused by someone. You have to take action.
Mhm.
You can't just tell them, you know what, just don't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
That's not going to get
Yeah.
it. You have to step in and begin to do some intervention and some intercession for your child.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
You know, and these signs and symptoms that we're pointing out, it may not necessarily be sexual abuse. It may not be mental or physical abuse, but I'll tell you this is abnormal. These signs and symptoms that we are pointing out, this is not normal. Something is going on.
Yeah.
Something is going wrong somewhere, because children and teens should not, you know, we say, well, they're just in the terrible twos and they're just hitting that stage in their life. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And so we really want to sound the alarm to begin to pay attention to what's taking place, running away, getting involved with the law, drugging and drinking, lying, staying out all night, sneaking out. These things, something is happening with these teens and with these kids.
Absolutely.
A confusion. And I'll even go so far as this whole thing that we're dealing with this gender identity. Something is going wrong. I have found that most people who identify as lesbians, as homosexuals, somewhere there was some abuse
somewhere.
There was abuse. This is just not normal behavior. And they talk about, well, this is how I was born. This is how I was created. God didn't make a mistake. He knows how he created male and female.
Created he them.
And he gave us the body parts, the genitals, to identify who's a boy and who's a girl. So now we're hearing all of this rhetoric and this narrative about gender identity, and my child is now identifying as a boy when she was born as a girl. This is craziness. This is demonic activity, and a lot of this is taking place, and it has generated in the home somewhere along the lines of this child growing up.
Sure.
This didn't just come about. Most of the lesbians and homosexuals that I've spoken to, excuse me, and the things that they have encountered has had to do with a lack of parental involvement.
Yes.
Somewhere there is a disconnect between the mother and the daughter, or the father and the son. Somewhere there is a disconnect, and somewhere there has been some physical and sexual, mental, emotional abuse that has taken place with these kids. These kids didn't just come to the point at 7 years old and say, I want to identify as a boy when I was born a girl.
Absolutely. Even if it's to the point where someone has abused them and introduced them to certain types of touches and certain types of feelings and things of that nature. Kids don't just wake up one day and say, I was a girl yesterday, but I want to be a boy today.
Absolutely
No.
not.
No, they went down the rabbit hole. Somewhere. They went down the rabbit hole. Something happened. And parents, we have to find out, you have to find out what that is.
Yeah. You know, and there's such a cross between that, Apostle, because parents whose children have gone down that road, it's really a cross between you love your kids and you want to accept them and you want them to feel accepted, but then you cross the line when you say that it's okay and I accept you for who you are, in that you've determined that you want to change your sex.
Yes.
That is not okay. That warrants some type of intervention, some type of counseling, some type of psychological intervention, as opposed to just saying, oh, come on, baby, I just embrace you as you are. No, that is not acceptable.
Well, it's not. And where we are is in a culture today where acceptance has been redefined as love.
Yeah.
So in order to love you, it means I have to accept you.
Right.
And that is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I can love you all day long and not accept anything that you do, because what you do is wrong. It's sin.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we're talking from a Christian perspective. So we have people that's watching us today that's non-Christians. We understand your argument and how you want to argue, but we're talking right now God and Bible.
Absolutely.
And God has only made two kinds of people in the earth. He's made male, he's made female, and you don't get the option of switching midstream. You don't get the option of saying that you are one thing simply because you're tired of being another.
Come on.
It doesn't work like that.
Come on.
Because at the end of the day, what defines what you are is your ability to reproduce.
There you go.
That's what it is. You can
There you
change
go.
the outside all day. But guess what? On the inside, you either got sperm or an egg.
See, that's it.
That's it. And that is what is determining your gender. So listen, miss me with all of that conversation.
Come on.
That's not where we are. We're not trying to do that today.
Yeah. My son can never come home and say, I'm bringing my boyfriend home for dinner and we're going to sit down and have it. No, that's not happening. My daughter can never come and say, I'm bringing my girlfriend home. This is my lover and I'm bringing her home and I accept that. This is unacceptable. You know, Apostle, that's why we're seeing a lot of it. Statistics show that the suicidal rate of these relationships, these homosexual relationships, is at an all-time high because it's so abnormal.
Yeah.
And they're searching for what's within, and it's driving them into a direction that's ungodly.
It is.
And when they can't find the peace and can't find the resolve that they need, then they end up taking their lives feeling like there's just no other way.
I get it. Well, you know what, Apostle, I tell you, I know our time is coming to a close. Our techs and our engineers are waving at us and telling us we're coming to the end of this broadcast.
Yes.
But again, we still have 1 week left in this month and we're going to keep on with the abuse.
Yes.
I want to say this before we end. To turn a person out from being straight to being gay is abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yes.
It's a form of abuse. Now, I know there are homosexuals out there that don't believe that. They don't agree with that. I don't care. It's our show. We can say what we want to say. Praise the Lord.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Hallelujah. So we're keeping it real. We're keeping it real concerning God, what he has said about it and all of those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
That's a form of abuse. And we'll get into that more later on.
We'll pick it up later.
We will pick it up later. So
Wow.
We'll pick up next time. Again, we're just starting to kind of break the seal on some signs with your teens.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back into that next week. This has been a quick 30, 40 minutes.
Wow,
I
that's
tell
good.
you,
Went
it went
fast.
quickly. It did. And so we thank God for you all. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. Please make sure that you share our broadcast with us. We are looking for other platforms. So just hang with us. You know, come and go with us where we go. Okay.
Amen.
But in the meantime, we love you. God bless you. I am Apostle Nona Ray.
And I'm Apostle Glenda Ray.
And we are God's girls. Keeping it
Keeping it real.
God bless you. Have a great weekend.
We'll see you next time.
I am Apostle Nona Ray.
And I'm Apostle Glenda Ray.
And we are God's girls. Keeping it real.